Hello there, I'm Stephen Michael King. Welcome to the mini-series. We're in part 4B. This series deals with manipulating energy through different hand movements and different hand patterns. Now this is different from the video that we're making that covers the first couple of dozen of different kinds of mudras, which are ways of doing the body, the hands, in ways that rewire the acupuncture meridians and rewire the chakras for more specific types of applications. So these first energy patterns here with the hands, these are designed for anybody that's doing pranic healing, qigong, reiki, huna, anything where you're bringing energy in through whatever parts of your body, whether it's the crown for a finer vibration, whether it's the feet and the base of the spine for a denser vibration, whether it's in through one hand, out through the other, or the throat for a medium kind of vibration. So we're going to be covering different forms of hand movements and how to use them in different applications. So we're going to cover the first little bit on different ways of doing sweeping. We're going to talk about swirling and twirling energy and what that does. We're going to talk about how to be able to pulse energy, how to make energy tingling, how to make energy have a massage type of an action. We're going to talk about different kinds of percussion techniques, such as tapping, snapping, and clapping, and how to use those as well. We're going to talk about vortexing energy to repattern things, to set up patterns and so forth. And we're going to talk a little bit about pattern pulling in different ways of using hands and fingers to pull patterns, pull roots, pull cords, pull things off of pedals, how to remove things such as implants, remove things like elementals, different things that you may want to clear from chakras and clear from meridians and so forth. So starting with sweeping, there are different ways of doing sweeping. I'm going to show a few very simple ones on myself, and you can basically adapt them for yourself or another. It's easy enough. Whenever I'm doing sweeping, one thing I always do is I make sure more energy is coming in than going out. In other words, I'm a conduit, I'm a hose. I'm not using my own energy. I'm bringing more energy in than is flowing out. My energy is either flowing out my palms and or flowing out my fingertips, sometimes in a combination of both. Yes, you can flow energy out your eyes, out your tongue. You can do it out your elbows, whatever parts that you actually want. Hey, if there's a minor chakra, you can do it. However, for simple stuff, we're going to start with different ways of doing the hands. So one of the things that's important, in addition to when you're sweeping, sometimes you may be working with energy that is not clean at all, doesn't feel good at all, and of course you want to remove those chaos patterns from your field or the field of what you're working on to make it more coherent. When you're doing that, and then in addition to using energy gloves, you want to also imagine a little energy ball. You make sure the energy ball is strong enough so that you can feel it. So you start by connecting your tongue to the roof of your mouth. That way you're connecting your front and back acupuncture meridians, forming a circuit. And you make sure that you're breathing all the way in and all the way out, full, deep breaths, rhythmic breathing to generate prana. So normally what I do is I cleanse from the top down. I'll start with using a twirling pattern to twirl the energy center. Looking at it from above, I'm turning counterclockwise. This is to make it expel stuff. So in my mind, I'm instructing the energy center to extract, to expel, to spit out, to remove whatever it is I want to clear. If I need something to be stronger, I will inhale the energy in, and then I will push the energy out with the breath. And I'm using a push-pull. In other words, as I'm pushing the energy out with the breath, I'm using a hand to reach in, grab it, the part that I want to remove, and to pull it out as I'm exhaling. Okay? You can do sweeping with the sides of your hands. When I'm working on another, I'm usually using the sides, this part, like scraping mud off of something. You can also use the inside, like on yourself, like scraping mud. Now, one way, simple energy flow, is just imagine the glove, or stronger, imagine an energy ball. And you want to be able to feel the ball kind of push against your skin or against the bone. I usually have the ball go into the bones and the muscles that I'm working. When you want to do it even stronger, you imagine a hose. So it's very similar to like washing your driveway down or sidewalk down with a hose. The energy is flowing out the fingers and palms in the direction that I want to flow. So we'll start with some general sweeping downwards. And what I'm doing, you can see I'm throwing the dirty energy into a salt bowl, or a bowl of salt water actually, that's on the side. You'll see me snapping my fingers, and that is to cause the energy to break off from the fingers. You can also clap and so forth. Different sounds, different percussions do different things. When you see me working on myself or another where I want to pull something out very deep, I may imagine a ball of energy between my hands and do a double parallel technique similar to double parallel energizing, except I'm sweeping. So for example, if I wanted to clean my leg, I could imagine the ball of energy being formed between my palms, and then I simply push the ball down as I'm flowing energy out my hands, out my palms, and out my fingers, all going in a downward direction. I'm going out and then out in the direction of the toes and throwing it into the salt bowl. So that's one way of sweeping. Another way of sweeping is using your fingers. You can use your fingers both to reach in with streams of energy coming out the fingertips. You can also use the fingers to dig. For example, if I wanted to clear something deeper out of there, I might reach in like that. You can use your fingers to chop. You can use one finger to send a strong beam of energy out, to cut something, make it a little smaller and easier to come out. You can use two fingers like that. You can use three. There's different mudras do different things, and they access very different kinds of energies. If you watch our video on mudras, then you'll learn which hand positions to use, what mantras they synchronize well with, phrases of power, how energy is focused to really cause the mudra to turn things on very, very strongly. There's many different ways of activating that. Another movement that you'll see a lot of energy people do a lot of is the spinning and the twirling. When you twirl in the direction where you're looking at me and it's going counterclockwise, what the counterclockwise does is that causes it to spit out. When you want to energize something to make energy go in faster, that's when you would spin clockwise, just like screwing something in or unscrewing to take something out. When you're seeing people do going towards each other, going away, this is an expansion and contraction movement. So what happens is you're pushing the energy outwards through your palms with your breath, and when you get to the center point where you want to stop, then you go from a yang movement, pushing energy away, to a yin movement, where with your palms you pull the energy outward, making the field expand. When you expand and contract an energy field, it creates more coherency. For example, if you wanted to be doing, say, a Twin Hearts meditation, where you're blessing planet Earth, you can have a little earth the size of a small ball, say right about here. You're bringing the energy in through your crown, out through your heart chakras and your hands, and you can do it one way is like this, which makes it a lot stronger. Another way, again, is expanding and contracting energy. And you just do it by intuitive feeling. What is making the energy feel softer and feel more coherent? Another way of manipulating energy, in addition to the resonating, is you may sometimes have a person that may be with a headache. Usually we're using sweeping. But there's times where sometimes we want to cause it to shift a little bit. You can shift it on its axis by going left and right, up and down, and sometimes that will shift things. Sometimes you might want to shift it on this axis a little bit. Again, like a balloon, an application would be working inside a person's torso as well as working inside their head. Now, another way of using energy is if you want to create a massaging motion. Let's say, for example, that you want the energy to massage deeply. So you have your energy gloves and your fingers, and you imagine the energy gloves and fingers extending through the area that you want to massage. So you're moving your hand like that, just like you're kneading dough, except you're imagining in your mind visually, auditorily, and kinesthetically. You're imagining, say, somebody's shoulder muscles being there, for example. So like if I wanted to work on my friend Jen, I would say, okay, Jen, I'd bring her energy, and then I would go ahead and be expanding and contracting. Now while I'm expanding and contracting and massaging, I'm shooting the energy downwards, going down the body, and I'm mentally commanding the energy to massage, to relax, release, let flow, soft like butter, soften, soften, soften. Now, in addition to the word soften, I'll actually soften my tone of voice. Not the volume of the voice, the tonality. You make it a softer, softer tone. Now, you can do that also with an energy ball. Like, let's say, for example, you wanted to resonate between somebody's shoulder blades. You can imagine their shoulder blades right there, and you can go ahead expanding, contracting, pushing out. You can start to manipulate the energy in your mind. You're doing it by what you're visualizing, by how you're kinesthetically imagining the energy. The kinesthetic is the most important. And the next part is going to be the auditory part of how you're actually doing the energy. Now, another example for moving energy a lot that you'll see is a tingling motion. When you want to make energy throb, pulse, tingle, you do it by how you move your fingertips, how you move your palms, and also what you tell the energy to do, and how you imagine it feeling, and also the colors that you use. So if you want to make something tingle, one thing you'll do is use lots of sparkles. Now remember, the brighter the sparkle, the stronger the tingle. The more beautiful the energy, the more beautiful the feeling. So the more beautiful the energy and the colors, the more beautiful the feelings, and the more beautiful the tingles can be. So if I wanted to have a little tingling energy around myself, I would go ahead, and I've got my energy gloves, I may have the energy balls, I can even do balls of energy coming out my fingertips, or I can imagine like little long balloons, like the kind that a clown would tie into an animal. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking the fingertips and I'm resonating energy out the fingertips. And what that does is that helps cause it to tingle. Throbbing can be more like that, or more like that. Pulsing, a little bit more like that. Now, there's many different ways that I haven't yet gone into that's covered in the more advanced techniques, especially the tantric techniques. You know, when you learn to flow energy through fingertips, going like that, when you learn how to go things like that, when you learn how to do different kinds of moving and directing energy. It's very similar to playing with Play-Doh. Another way that you can learn to get good is if you're lucky enough to find a fish tank where there's some algae to play with, you practice moving the algae without touching it by how you're moving your fingertips and how you're moving your palms in the water. If you don't have access to algae, well, if you're in a bath, you can imagine, you can feel how the energy feels against your body as you're manipulating the water. Because again, energy, depending on how you're bringing it in, you can make it like air, you can make it like fire, you can make it like water, you can make it metallic, you can have many different kinds of qualities. When working on another person, we like to have it smooth, soft. Sometimes we like to have it be fuzzy, which you would imagine like a glove with lots of fuzzy things coming out of it. If you want it to tingle and be fuzzy, you imagine beautiful sparkles coming out your fuzzy love gloves and so forth. With energy work, in addition to sweeping, you can, if you're with someone you care about, you can caress the energy, remembering that the slower you do the caress, the stronger it can be. And you can even instruct the energy to amplify, to intensify, and to spread in a way that a person finds most healing and beneficial. Another way of doing the energy works is by vortexing energy. Vortexing an energy is what we do if we're working on above ourselves, going down, or if we're working on a property, for example, or a thought form. Vortexing energy, what happens is we bring the energy in from above, we flow it out our palms and our fingertips, and from above looking downwards, it's going to be clockwise. So let's say, for example, I wanted to do a vortexing cleansing tornado around my own body. What I would do, and I'll be getting into this in a little more detail because I have about 20 minutes to do this video with, what I'll be doing is I imagine myself at a height that is convenient. So let's say, for example, if I want to be sitting down, I'll imagine myself or who I'm working on maybe about this tall. And if it's my own self, I would call my name a few times, Stephen Michael King, Stephen Michael King, Stephen Michael King, call the energy. I would imagine starting way above the head, getting the tornado spinning. And I'm sending the energy all the way down, from above looking downwards. I'm spinning it clockwise. So if my head's about here, I've got it spinning, and I'm imagining it going through the center of my body, down to the center of the earth. Now if you want, you can reach inside yourself and actually do it. You imagine your hand being very fine in vibration, like a ghost. And that way it's a smooth energy, and you actually feel it going around yourself. Now for a vortex to really work well, you want to have the energy continue to vortex for at least 15 minutes or so to really be strong. Vortexing repatterns energy. Let's say, for example, that you wanted to do a prosperity vortex for your own situation or for somebody else's. Well, since it's in giving that we receive, and since what you put out comes back to you, we'll very briefly vortex my heart's desires, and I'll imagine my heart's desires here, and then we're going to shift and you'll imagine vortexing around your own place. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to imagine that I'm sitting in my house, and I want nice, beautiful energy around my house. So I'll imagine my house as being maybe about this big. And I'll visualize the property, and I'll say the address a few times, 3, 4, 5 times to call the energy of the property. And then I've got my vortex going. So now I'm starting to flow a bunch of gold. And I'll actually do it by accessing my soul energy first. So I'll start by affirming I'm the soul, I'm light divine, I'm a being of divine light, divine love, divine power, divine will, and so forth. And then we start bringing in divine prosperity. So I'm imagining 24 karat gold coming out my fingertips and going through the house. And I'm imagining the vortex getting bigger and bigger. So it starts maybe here, but as you're vortexing, the vortex gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it also gets taller and it gets deeper. You want it to go all the way down to the center of the earth. So like if you wanted to make my prosperity vortex stronger so that yours becomes stronger, you would imagine seeing a little clockwise vortex, and here's my house, and just, where this space is, just go, okay, Stephen Michael King's house, all right, prosperity energies. And you imagine that it's pulling in gold from all directions, like from all over the earth, prosperity and happiness, whatever people could benefit most from the different products and services and so forth. You're bringing prosperity in from all directions around the planet, bringing it into the center. So you imagine just everything, invoke that everything works out in highest light, divine order. Everything's coming together rapidly and properly. So let's imagine that you have your house right here. So you say your property address just a few times in your mind to call it. And so imagine that right here is your property, and there you are sitting, and you're thinking of your heart's desires. And how does it feel emotionally and kinesthetically when you own it? What do you see? What do you say to yourself? What are the feelings that you get? And so forth. So here we go. We're going to vortex your desires. Right now, I'm invoking that the energy flows through to everybody who watches the video, and that the more people watch the videos, the stronger the energy gets for all of our own prosperity vortexes. And this is a nice way of vortexing energy. So we're making it stronger and stronger. Another way of making it stronger and keeping your hand moving the same is imagining your house being smaller. That way it's telling you that you're really big and your house is really small in terms of how you're actually controlling and manipulating the energy. Now, another way of doing energy work, and we're going to do an entire video on it because it is so intricate, and that is in what's called pattern pulling. And that's where you draw a symbol and you blow the symbol in, and you do a number of other things working with the symbol to be able to pull patterns out. And oftentimes what we'll do is we'll flow energy in through one energy center, like say for example the crown, and then let's say if I wanted to pull a pattern out of say my ajna, I would go ahead, I would use my palm, I would draw a symbol that is specific for pulling out a pattern. I also draw it on the top part, so I've now moved both of my hands, I'm flowing the energy, I'm focusing on the symbol, and if I wasn't explaining it to you, I would be using one breath for each part of the symbol, blowing energy in. I'm bringing the energy in from my soul, from high above my head, exhaling the breath of life out my hands with my palm. Okay, so if I wanted to start pulling a pattern, I'd move my hand, and then I'm starting, you'll notice that I'm actually doing it in a counterclockwise direction, and I'm imagining the symbol from both of those, and I pull the energy slowly out and down and into the salt bowl. Now there's many different ways of doing pattern pulling. There's many different ways of working with symbols. There are over 20 variables that affect a symbol and that determine how strong does the symbol work. A portion of it is the consciousness of the person who did the symbol in the first place. Most of it relates to all the different things that happen when you do that. Different energy techniques work similarly, and then there are some differences that are different with respect to context. That's why it's important to know how all of them work, because you want to have a wide arsenal in your toolbox of techniques to be able to go. Now the next portion is on clapping and snapping. These are different percussion techniques that work with energy to help break up energy patterns. What is working with it is, part of it is the sound from the percussion. Part of it is how the energy moves from off the palms, from off the fingertips. When you're doing a clap, most of that is sound if it is like this. If, however, your clap is like this, then the energy shoots in that direction, because what I did was I had this part of my hand coming together first, and it slowly went like that. A clap like this, you can do parallel to the body, however you want to do. A clap like this, normally you want the sound to go in the direction that you want the energy to actually flow. So for example, if you wanted to go deep in between somebody's shoulder blades to break up sound, or to break up energy, you would point your fingers towards their shoulder blades. Like if they're in front of me and I'm behind them, I would point my fingers and I'd be, and so it's like shooting energy out in this direction, and yet it's a very strong clap. It actually, the pattern actually looks like in that direction. It actually comes, it's like this kind of a shape is how the sound wave actually looks, actually travels. An application on your own body could be like this. Now what I'm doing is I'm aiming the sound so it's going and it's clearing the stuff in this direction and going behind, actually kind of moving it behind my head. In other words, I'm wanting the dirty energy to go in the directions of the fingertips. If I'm wanting the energy to increase on my crown, I can do like this. If I'm wanting to clear a bit from my forehead and ajna, I can do like this. If I'm wanting to clear down my body, I can either do in a clap in that direction, your solar plexus and down, or I can go ahead and I can do a more of a stronger slapping movement. In other words, instead of a tap, sometimes, especially if I'm in a hurry, I want to vibrate the bones. I want to vibrate the muscles. What this does is two things. Number one, it releases dirty energy from very, very deep inside. It makes it go from the center out radially outwards. The second thing that it does is it creates a space so that your cleaner energy can be better assimilated. That's why after a lot of Qigong, pranic healing, and so forth, or after meditation, they tell you massage the body, tap the body, slap the body, etc. Because you want the energy to be able to reverberate deeper. So if I'm doing a clapping movement on myself, similar to tapping, like in EFT, behavioral kinesiology, I'm doing bilaterally, I'm flowing energy through my palms and my fingertips, I'm focused exactly on what it is I want to clear, and I'm instructing the energy auditorily how to clear, and I'm imagining kinesthetically how the energy is feeling as it's clearing. And if I'm going from above downwards, I may be like pulling like a dirty wetsuit off, like unpeeling a banana. When I get down lower, I'm pushing it downward. Again, like if I was a banana and I was taking the skin off, like that, except that I'm doing it as I'm actually doing the percussion. So it looks like this when it's done, and here's what it sounds like. and I stop right at the toes. I'm going the midline, out my big toes. I do the next line out. And again, I'm sparking the energy from the center outwards, so instead of pushing it in, I'm pulling it out. And that's done with intent. Now my fingers turn. The energy is flowing down my body as I'm doing it. So I've got the hose action going down the fingertips. I've got the percussion as each time I'm hitting, I'm pulling the hand upwards. I'm pulling dirty energy from the center, from the bones, all the way outward and out of the legs. Down over the tops of the feet and outward. So that's how it looks when you're actually doing it quickly. The sides, again, I'm having the intent of sparking the energy outwards. The energy is flowing also out the palms and out the fingertips. I'm having the intent of whatever is being brought up here, it then flows in this direction, in the direction of the fingertips. That's why you see me pointing my fingertips away from my body, so the energy being brought up goes away from the body. When I'm doing here, I'm adding a technique of imagining a balloon in between my hands, moving the balloon as I'm going. So you can see I'm actually moving a balloon side to side in between my hands as I'm doing the percussion downward. The balloon is basically making the energy go from the center outwards, and then because of how I'm doing my hands and the sound patterns and where I'm striking first with the hand here and then later striking there, I'm sending the energy downwards, 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 downwards to the side. So that's how percussion is done. Now snapping is done in a wide variety of ways. When you snap, part of it is a sound, the rest is how you're flowing energy out your fingertips. Flowing different colors of energy produces different effects, as do different patterns of movements. Your patterns can be up and down. They can be around and round in direction. They can be side to side. Now notice, if you're doing like this with somebody's ear, going right, left, right, left, right, left, what is that doing? This helps to recalibrate left and right hearing. This helps to also help with the stereo effect of hearing. This is especially useful for people who have had any kind of hearing damage, or people who just want to synchronize your left and right brain hemispheres really good. Now to make it stronger, we start doing different kinds of patterns. See, for example, circles in that direction, circles in another direction, figure eights. Still doing the alternating, and yet we're twirling. Round and round in one direction. Round and round in another direction. You can make the energy go up and down the body. This way, not only are they hearing the energy, but they're also going ahead and it releases the energy from the energy field out to about here. So it's actually working with some of the outer aura as well. So when we're doing expansion contraction, we're going like that. And again, we're using the fingertips for the snapping. To make the technique stronger for expansion and contraction, you also send energy out your palms. That way you've got a balloon going on of energy, and you've got the snapping around the outsides of the balloon that's going on. There's many different ways that you can use these techniques and skills. You can do it absentee by calling somebody's energy, imagining how they're sitting and everything after you've called their names 3 to 10 times, and you're doing the sound patterns around them. You can do the sound patterns around yourself, for example, in a vortex. Maybe imagining yourself like about this big, and then pretending that you're there, calling your name a few times, and doing the sound patterns from above. Now what this does as you're vortexing, see I'm going from above looking down, I'm going clockwise. So similar to moving my hand like this, creating a vortex, clockwise from above looking down, except I'm also doing here. So I'm creating a vortex in two ways, one by sending sound or by sending energy out my palms, the other by out my fingertips. What the fingertip snapping does when you do a vortex like that, it also adds a lot of sparkles to it. So remember, the brighter the sparkle, the stronger the tingle. So when you're hearing the nice little snapping things like that there, you know, if you want to hear all these different geometric movements and how the geometry is used in real practice, on the different audios that I have, the parts where it says full effects or bells and whistles, that includes all of these different snapping patterns, which is fantastic. Now, I am recording in stereo, so if you want to hear what a pattern sounds like, here's the stereo mic. Round and round. Sideways. Now, of course, the downside with the snapping is sometimes you got to rest your fingers. But that gives you an idea. So when you're using all these different hand motions together, the sweeping, the snapping, the clapping, everything is designed to go together like a symphony. The more ways that you manipulate energy, the better the effects that you're going to have, because different contexts require different energy movements. And you'll be able to learn how to do it intuitively, as well as learning how to do it in great detail in the balance of the series, which we go over in great detail in our different webinars and so forth. So cycle through the other audios and videos, and if you'd like to host a seminar, give me a contact. Now, in the rest of this series on the different ways of manipulating energies, we're going to have some additional explanations for each of those kinds of energies and applications, going in greater and greater detail. This is meant to be an expanded overview to build on what was in the 4A video and to create an introduction for what we cover in our webinars, in our seminars, audios, and videos. Thank you. Atma Namaste.